Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
What a show that was, Colman. Colman Domingo, my real life friend. Something in passing strange just became maybe my thematic north star for our talk here today. I think you said something like it's God's work. I'm just a vessel.
Yes.
Did that happen in that clip? I just want to say, pretty agnostic, maybe a Satanist, but on a deep spiritual basis, Colman Domingo is perhaps one of the heaviest hitters I know in my life of all time. And maybe no person is that truer of, in the sense of genuinely touched in this sort of very grounded, humble, really touched by the arts. Can you maybe speak to that a little bit? Maybe you might know what I mean.
I think I might. Thank you. First of all, thank you all for being here. This is really lovely. You always think, oh, they're doing something for me. Will anybody come? And then I poked my head out and I saw all these faces and I was a little overwhelmed, to be honest. And thank you for coming. I think, I started out my career about 33 years ago, and I think because I think I started in San Francisco, and where it was really just about trying to find your way into being an artist. And I thought I wanted to be an actor, and then I think it turned me into a multidimensional artist because I had questions. I felt like I had a place. Theater is where I started, and I really felt like I had a place in storytelling. I don't think that naturally I come from a bunch of storytellers, people who just like, they know how to tell stories in my family. But I think that when I was in college, one of my teachers told me he believed that I had a gift in this. And I was always a shy kid. I was on the school newspaper and things like that. I never thought, people in high school would never imagine that I'd be doing what I'm doing. I wouldn't imagine I was doing what I was doing. But I watched people a lot. And I think that possibly my journey has been about, like, I started out wanting to be an actor, and then I became an artist because I just wanted to play and figure things out and uncover who we are. And I've always thought of it, I think even early on, as it being an act of service. I felt like, oh, this is how I tell story.
I think that's what I mean. Is you maybe more than anyone in my life is truly the living embodiment of the thing. Like some people just are the real deal, and they say, walks like the truth, it smells like the truth, or whatever. A spiritual principle is, like 1 + 1 = 2, or whatever. It never equals 3. And you, more than maybe anyone I know, really is the embodiment of what I see in your work is that it's of service to the piece. It's not an ego trip, which is so crazy because if anyone deserves to have the ultimate ego, it's Colman Domingo. And you see so many kind of, nobody turnip trucks roll into this town. They just they drop out of the ether and they say they have names. And I'm like, sir, ma'am, I think you just want to be famous when you grow up. And then somebody like you actually puts in the work and is the real deal and lives the life that takes the time, that takes those decades of being a journeyman. And holy shit, when a moment like this arrives for you, I mean, you have lived a life in service to the arts. Didn't matter if it was acting, directing, producing, what it was, the size of the role, off-Broadway, black box theater, or the big leagues, but it's like, holy shit, the moment finally caught up. And it is that spiritual principle of, like, the most basic one, which is karma. You know what I mean? Like, you're a fucking piece of work. Well, good luck in this life. And inevitably, if you're the real deal, it's life will find its way to you.
I hope
that's
so.
beautiful, Colman.
Thank you. But I think this is, me and this, when we met, some years ago at a premiere, and we couldn't take our eyes off each other. And I feel like we see each other and see what we're truly see what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do it. And really, I think that's why I feel like you're like a sister to me in this industry. And I think that, and I think, listen, I've always had so much pride and still do of being a journeyman. My career has always been like, oh, one day I'm doing a show on Broadway, next minute I'm bartending, next minute I'm teaching, next minute I'm doing regional theater, next minute but also I committed myself to that early on,
That's the
believing
thing in
that
the
that was
work. I believe that you
that was a life in the arts.
bartended
Yeah.
with the same obsessive dedication to
Yes.
sort of being a channel and a
Yes.
vessel.
I was
that
a good
going to
bartender. I was a great
provide-
bartender.
I
I had a
believe
good
it.
time. I turned it in. Honestly, anyone who
Come
knows me
on.
from bartending, I used to bartend at this place called the 55 Bar in New York. And I would work, I had the worst shifts, but I would work from like 9. And this is literally, I would do a
Worst
show.
shift's best attitude.
Worst
Let me
worst
guess.
shifts. But I would do shows like at Manhattan Class Company, get a cab across town, and I'm wearing like probably clothing that probably costs way more than I'm going to make that night. And I would go there and I would bartend, and I was happy at it. Like, so I feel like that's the thing. I always knew that wherever I was, I had to find the place where I'm going to have fulfillment and feel like I have some purpose and be joyful. And I found it in bars in the West Village. And but also mine was a jazz bar, so I had like incredible jazz musicians coming in and out. Nora Jones would sing there and stuff like that. And so I was getting filled up, and then I was also creating. Still, I didn't stop creating. I was writing plays when the bar emptied out at 1 a.m. and I was there till 4. That's when I wrote my first solo play. I found ways to continue to be an artist at all times, and for it not to feel like it's a separate thing than like if I'm bartending, I'm not an actor. I'm like, no, I'm always an artist. It's the way I had to believe that I had agency, and what I believe is the life of an artist.
Is that where it comes from? I'm asking for all of us, but it might be a little selfish. It's that deep, honest, that true sense of gratitude that you seem to embody. That is also, I don't see that kind of humility walking around, but it's humble because it's sort of there's a joy about life. There's a sort of a gratitude for just being in the game and alive at all. And it's almost like it's musical in its nature. It's like the music of the spheres. You know what I mean? It's the most connected kind of thing. And I guess, were you always that way? Because it's like, it was not an easy road always for Colman Domingo, unless I'm mistaken.
No.
So at what point in this sort of shy guy turned artiste, turned the man we see here today, did you sort of like crack that nugget of did you know that you had to flip your perspective, or were you just came out the womb that way?
That's a great question.
Well, no problem. I'm riffing.
No, but I wonder. I think I was a happy baby, and I was loved and kissed on a lot. I was adored, and I knew I was. I come from a very working class family. Went to college. I had to have part-time jobs and work, but I think I was always grounded with a sense of having faith. My mother had really impressed upon me to have an imagination.
Were they religious? I'm just curious.
No, my mother came from a very Baptist family, but she didn't raise us that way. She was like, she was like, do what you want, just be a good person.
Single mom?
No, my mother married my stepfather when I was 9 years old, but she was she was with my dad for a minute. This is a whole other thing.
We don't need to go.
Talk
Guys, this is about the movies, all right? It's not therapy.
But basically, I'm just giving you the grounding of it.
He's my therapist, in case
yes,
you guys
exactly.
don't know.
We tricked
have
you
a
into
personal
this.
life. We sort of rang in the new year together, and Colman did the countdown. It's not a big deal, but we have a lot of life together. We go to Mexico and stuff.
We do.
Vacation together. But anyway,
but anywho,
so it's not a therapy session,
no.
not your childhood. Go on.
Well,
so
what
you
I'm
were
saying
happy,
is,
baby.
I think that I was a happy kid, and I
Yeah.
came from a very happy household. We didn't have a lot, but we had really good times together. That's why I feel like I know how to throw a good party. Because I think that's what we did. We just really enjoyed ourselves. So by the time I went off, my mother just wanted me to make sure I did something that I felt good about, that I was happy doing. And once I found the theater and found this industry, like she may not have known what that was because she wanted me to have a job with security like any parent did. But I chose this path, and she couldn't have been more delighted and curious in what I wanted to do.
How old were you when you moved to New York and did full time? I'm going to move to the real question soon. Okay, guys. I put on my glasses to be official.
I got to give you the roundabout because I started my career in San Francisco.
Yes, sir.
I moved to San Francisco when I was 20 years old. I didn't finish school at Temple University. I thought I was going to take a year off. I had one of my buddies move up to California. It was 3 guys living in a studio apartment in the Tenderloin district. And so I decided to be the 4th. Here's a joke for you, but it's the truth. I literally lived in a closet.
Wow.
Though I was never in the closet. Though I was never in it. But yet still, I mean, I really, listen, there's been so much good fortune. And, I had that from San Francisco. My friend Guy would bartend and leave his tips and say, use it, do what you need to do, get a job, start doing what you want to do. I started taking acting classes there, stuff like that. And then I started to have a career. I started to actually have a career by like showing up to, auditioning for things that I probably had no business auditioning for.
Yeah, I
but
know. That's a big rule that people don't know. You
got
to leave the house. Yeah.
I was in the circus. I did, Shakespeare festivals. I show up to rehearsals that I wasn't even called in for because it was my conservatory. I was going to learn everything. I was learning and feeling, and I think that's the way my career has been, about feeling and learning and evolving, and not in sort of a textbook way.
Yes, sir.
It's sort of like everything I've learned is by doing and figuring it out and trial and error, which is why I think this is why the origins of my career, I've had such freedom because I didn't have a rigid way of doing things. You know what I mean? So that's why I can even look at a reel and I'm like, wow, I don't know many people who liberate themselves to do so many different things and to feel like they could fail at any time.
Well, that's also why there's so few originals, if we're honest. It's like people think there's a path to follow, but the truth is like be inside the thing.
Be inside the thing and try and figure it out and be willing to fail.
We are going to go to a clip in 2 minutes. By the way, I think that's in pencil, which is very hard to read. So maybe do something like a finger, a peace sign, okay. So I'll just ask one official question, because why not in this 2 minutes? Because, my God, there's so many things in here. Like, as a professor, how do you approach it? Oh, maybe we'll get to that. Among your numerous nominations and awards, is there one recognition or project that holds a special place in your heart, and why?
I can immediately say yes. Me and my husband, we created a short film.
Hello, Ro.
Yeah, just don't point him out. He's very shy.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
God knows
he's
why.
Extremely shy.
Best looking character in town.
There's a short film that we created just to create called New Moon, and that was actually the beginning of the animation. And we created just because we wanted to create. It was during the pandemic, and we wanted to create something, sort of an offering of love to the world. We didn't know what we were going to do with it, but we created it, the two of us. And 2 animators in France that we reached out to, and because we saw their work, and we created this thing. We've never been in the same room with them. We created it all online, and then when it was done, it was a short piece taken from my solo show, and it's just about a mother and son, and their relationship to the moon and Aretha Franklin. It's a personal story, so we want that just to put it out in the world as an offering. And I remember our business team, our business managers and everything were like, animation is expensive. We're like, no, we're going to take it from our own salaries and put it into this because there's something we want to give. And we did that, and then we set up a Zoom. It was actually the anniversary of my mother's birthday. She's been gone since 2006. So it was a gift on Mom's birthday to share with family. And then everyone loved it, and there was tears, and they said, well, what are you going to do with it? We're like, well, we didn't get that far. We're like, we're just going to give it to the world. They're like, oh, you should do some film festivals and all. So it went down the film festival circuit. We figured out how to do that. We didn't know how to. Anything that we do, we figure out. We're just scrappy in that way. But eventually, it was we won all these beautiful film festivals, like
shortlisted for the Oscars.
And we're shortlisted for the Oscar,
yeah,
which is great.
And
That's meaningful for me.
That's how it's done. It's like be in the work.
Just
if the
do
work
it.
is the real thing, if it comes from a real deal
And it's
place,
not about what happens to it.
it walks like the truth, smells like the truth is the truth. And that's how you win an Oscar. And I'm telling you that because I have a bunch. I don't talk about them. Is that 2 minutes? Are we ready for our clip? I believe you. Okay. Listen, I could do this for literally like 6 weeks. And we're like, this is not so. I was like, an opportunity to be with Colman for an hour and a half? Yes, please. All right. So the first clip we're gonna go to is Euphoria. This is an I love this the diner scene. Jesus, I love this scene. I don't know which clip we're gonna show. Let's watch. God damn, Colman. God damn. I mean, okay, as a drug addict in recovery, which I feel like I can't talk about enough, holy fucking shit. I mean, it's so heavy, this scene. It's so beautifully articulated, and the way that you deliver it, I mean, it's got to be poetry. It can't be the fucking ocean. It's like, you got to find a power. You're sick. And the way you're doing it and the way Sam is fucking shooting it, can you just tell me how it really hits? I just want, as the guy who's been in that diner and who's been in both spots, dispenser and dispensee, and is still deranged as fuck, despite it. And you are not an addict at all, Colman. Like, how did you fucking hit this? And, and how did you touch it? And was it all written already with Sam? Or did you and Zendaya kind of work it? And tell me anything, all the things.
I'll start here. I first met Sam Levinson, the creator and director and writer of this. And when I met him, we immediately started talking in a corner for like hours. This was at a party. And what I love about Sam is we could talk about everything on the planet, what's important to us, and what's really important to us. So that's how it started. And he was like, so he wrote this character for me, and he said it's somebody who really helped him through, and who was, he had his own struggles, et cetera, but also he had a great philosophy. So this was written. This was actually a conversation that was spread out over episodes before we were going to shoot season 2. But then the pandemic happened, and then everything was scrapped. And then the first thing back, Sam was like, I want to do this. Something he figured out for him, and I'll tell you about playing it and all that in a second, but he said, I want this intimate conversation, just a hard conversation. And I think this couldn't have happened before the pandemic. He was inspired by the pandemic to pull this together and say, I think we need to sit down and have a talk, a hard talk, after a summer of racial reckoning as well. This is the first time we're back. So therefore, when I tell you, we talked about gratitude, you talked about gratitude, I couldn't have been more grateful to be on a set again, to do what I love. And he sent me this script, and it was as if he read my deepest, private conversations and hopes and wishes and concerns about who we are and who we're going to be. Yeah, it's about people in recovery talking and have a conversation, but it really is about America. It's about race. It's about what we're addicted to. It's about social media. It's about all that. So he's unpacking. This is Sam Levinson here. And this, for me, felt like such a prayer. It felt like I wanted to give everything to this. So I put myself through my own rehearsal for 40 hours a week before we got to set. I didn't know what Zendaya was doing. We got on Zoom a couple times just to read through, and Zendaya is a champion.
I mean, she's a fucking rock star.
A rock star.
That's somebody who deserves, whew.
So we came together. We came together truly with all this, I'm so grateful to be here energy, and we're going to go for it. And when I tell you, when the cameras rolled, and you see, these are scenes that go on forever. It became a one-act play, where it's like we would just go on one angle, go on the other. Sam would come and give some direction here and there. But it really was, I wanted to get out of the way in every single way and just say, this is truly in service to all of our humanity right now. And so did Z. So we went at it, and he let us really do the dance together. I've had many people in my life who has been in recovery, who struggle. And I feel like the best that we are, what we do, is to really be an empath. And to really just say, okay, how can I not judge this person? How can I understand this so I can play it and play it? I have to love every character that I play. And I have to love all the messed up things about his own experience that he even talks about in this diner scene. I had to find out who he was and what he's fighting for and what he hopes to be. And so I think I just go at it. And the best, when I tell you the best thing for me is when anyone who's going, people always think they're like, oh, you see me, you've been in recovery too. And I'll just say, I understand you, because it's human.
Like, that's what's so wild. That's what I'm saying. As somebody who is like recovery guy, it's like, I believe that person more than, it almost reminds me of, you guys remember that movie Fat City with Susan Terrell and Jeff Bridges, Stacy Keach, it's John Huston. It's like, that's like the fucking alcoholism, active alcoholism movie. This is like a scene about recovery like I've never seen in my life, because of the things, you're the living embodiment of the thing that we all need to hear, and you're loving the fact that, like, it's okay that we're sick and broken on the inside does not mean that we need to take ourselves out.
Yeah.
Like, that seems, and that's what gets transmitted. You're a channel.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question, a specific?
Of course you can.
Sure. Your character ends the scene with the line, "Your only hope is a revolution." What does that line mean to you? And I do want to say one thing about my friend Albert Camus, who I believe comes up in Passing Strange as well. You have a line about him. I think he says something like, the only way to exist in an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. That's not on here. That's buried deep somewhere in the kid.
Wow, yeah.
But just to say this line, you know what I mean? That's what it fucking sparks for me.
What did he say? What's the rest of the line? Your only hope is a revolution, but not a. But I think he's really saying not a performative one. Everyone thinks revolution is like, let me join this group, let me join this, let me sign that letter, let me do that. He said, no, a revolution is personal. It's actually private, and you have to dedicate yourself to it every single day, whatever that is. The revolution starts with you, and it's not on Twitter, and it's not because you did a post.
Shit.
I think that's the beautiful thing that Sam is putting out. He's putting a lot of arguments out there. Like, think about this. Think about, are you a revolutionary? Are they really a revolutionary? Because they suddenly, if it's Gay Pride Month and suddenly they got a flag up, do you think they really actually believe? Or are they trying to get your money? He's telling you to look deeper. That's what I loved about all of it, because he was like, now that, especially as we were coming out of the pandemic, he was like, examine all of this. Really look at, because he said we're all sick, every single one of us in this room. Everyone who if you think it's just about being an addict because of drugs or alcohol or sex, you're lying to yourself. So I think he's like, examine our culture, deconstruct it for yourself, and really think and inquire and interrogate. I think that's why this episode in particular is so potent for people, and people go to it over and over again. It's one of my favorite things I've ever done.
Yeah.
Because I really felt like, and maybe that's it. It's because I still feel so very emotionally connected to it. I could barely watch it, because I think of it was that time with me where, we're watching, George Floyd, and, we're trying to figure out, are we going to be able to hug each other again or anything like that? And we're also terrified. And then this script comes to me, and I'm like, this is it. This is my lifeline. It's a lifeline for everyone. And so I poured everything into it, and so did Zendaya, and so did Sam. So it does feel like it's that thing where we're like, here are the questions that we're wrestling with in this culture right now. Go deeper.
Well, I think that what you're speaking to is, and are you going to give me a hand signal? Okay. Are we there yet, or we have a... Dois. Zola's coming up. I like that one. Yeah, I mean, it really is this thing of, on the deepest level, it's like, the real gig is, and the reason it doesn't matter if it's directing, writing, acting. In your case, is fucking. I mean, I know the movie that you were writing when we were hanging out in Puerto Vallarta. The house was sick, but you're also like, I mean, you can play all the instruments. You can fucking do any. I mean, like, but really, what you're transmitting is this thing that's like a way of saying to the person that's watching, that's not to, winning things and all this glitterati around it. Somehow you're really in communion with the act of service of like one soul to another who is a sick and suffering person at home watching who fucking needs to hear it. And that is what you're transmitting in the work that I think is so rare. And the result is, you got a Primetime Emmy Award. But, once in a blue moon, it's for the fucking really, really, really right reasons. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's deep because, it's like a lost art form, I think, in our modern world.
I think you're right. Thank you.
I guess we could transition, but it's big. It's really big stuff, Colman. I mean, it really is. It's like the idea that one person is sitting at home watching that, and that makes it them make it through a day. You know what I mean? That's what's so crazy about what we do.
There's a young woman who sent me a message, and I'll never forget it. And it really touched me so deeply. She said, after watching that episode, I finally understood my mother who passed away some years ago. And she suffered from the disease of addiction. And she said, for the first time, I was able to see her and her struggle and to understand it was a disease. It wasn't her, but it got the better of her. And I remembered her wanting to be a ballerina and her dancing, and that she had dreams and aspirations like everyone else. And she said, so now it allowed me to forgive her. And it was...
It's big. And it is a rotten, soul sickness. It is a diseased country. Yeah. It is a diseased world. It's like, our country, it's like literally
we're all
like
suffering.
A Native American burial ground, and we're all just like hanging out on it, being like, why do the problems keep coming up? Well, you know what I mean? What's going on in the world? Why we got these wars? It's like, capitalism is a fucking rotting soul sickness. So maybe it's that. And maybe as an empath, maybe it's like we're feeling that. And so, because often it's like, yeah, man, Emmy's weekend, the Oscars are coming, oh, yeah, here you go, you're winning at life. And it's like, but is the fucking world winning? I mean, the job is to be in communion with the fucking ether and how everybody is, collapsing on the inside. So it's a weird thing to, I much admire that about you, that it's so overt that you're communicating with the fact that we don't all feel great. Right. Even though, and that the way you shine through that is with this sort of like a positivity of guys, I will help shoulder you. Let's get on the ride because we got to push through this thing as a team.
Well, you know what? I'll speak to something you just mentioned too, because it's funny. And I'll just say this: there's this, right now it's a very glittery time when it comes to being out there for awards weeks and stuff like that. And it's funny because I think that people keep asking me, how you doing, how you feeling?
Yeah.
And wondering how it's affecting you and all that. And to be very honest, I know that it's opportunities to go into rooms and actually communicate with others. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't want for anything. I don't. I actually don't. I want to communicate and get to know and say hello. So I walk in, people are like, you walk in dressed and you're having a good time. You look like you're actually having a good time. And the truth is, I am. And so it's, my question is, when other people aren't having a good time, I'm like, well, what are you focused on? I'm focused on many things. And I think that, one in particular, I think, and I'll just say, the one thing I think I'm focused on is the fact that it's not just me in these rooms. Mm-hmm. It's all these people who have come with me that have poured into me. So I have to honor that by having a good time, by smiling and enjoying and shaking hands and getting to know people and knowing my community and being and someone saying some kind words to me and actually listening and actually taking in this moment, because that's all it's about. It's not about the outcome. It's just not. It's about right now and what are we doing right now. And so I think that that's it. It's like I'm always very concerned with going back to service.
Yeah.
And whatever I do, because I feel like that's where we're at our best. When we throw we throw New Year's Eve party together, by the way.
No big deal, guys.
Because we do this, we're sort of this interesting couple of people who she opens.
You said couple.
Yeah. Because she opens her home and she won't say it, but she opens her home because she's really helping community to engage with one another. And I know I can be a partner with that. So it just made sense. We're like, great, I got you. I'm going to do the decorations in this. You open the home, you plan this. Well, we know our superpowers because we're actually trying to do the same thing. I think that's why we're dedicated to it, you know? And then also we're dedicated to a good sleigh of clothes as well. Why not? I mean, what?
But, you know, because it's a big deal. I mean, this stuff is big boy shit. It's not about self. You can either be on the journey. That's even, you know, what you're saying in the scene. And that is, if it's a journey of self for, you know, the end all
yourself.
big is my ego, I'm going to win at life. It's like, we're all going to die. Spoiler alert. You know what I mean? Like, there's no there. You can win what you want, make the money. Like, you know, you can't fucking keep
Or
it.
you can enjoy this ride and actually be mindful and present
and like
and joyful.
Know that like people are fucking, you know, hurting. And it's anyway, it's a very rare thing in our business to be present. It's why I was so grateful to get to do this with you. Is I was like, you're telling me there's an opportunity in the middle of all of these shenanigans to actually sit and talk to you about this stuff. Like, oh man, that sounds like a grounding fucking event to do before we head off to our next fucking, you know, small talk that we always will try to make big talk. All right, let's go to. I could say if I could do this all day. I'm grateful too that you guys are willing and send notes if you hate what's happening. Because it's kind of going to be this vibe for like another solid 40 or longer. We don't know. Anyway, so as we get into Zola, it is important to note that, Janixa Bravo is a heavy hitter in the extreme. I mean, this is a human being who is so singular, who is such a genuine auteur, who really has a vision and can articulate it. And in writing this with her, best friend, baby brother, our soulmate, Jeremy O'Harris, who is, this is a fucking radical brain, Jeremy. Like, that is a big brain. Nobody can drop. You think I dropped Camus like it was, Jeremy wiped the floor with that. So anyway, I love these guys. It's also how I met you, so it makes me love you, everybody even more. I love this film. I love your performance in it. I love how it's shot. I guess let's show a clip, right? And get into it. Zola, baby. Janixa Bravo's Zola. Yeah.
I feel like I'm sort of dressed like him right now. Kind of inspired.
This character, like, when you drop the fucking game and you switch over, oh my God. That switch is one of the crazier things I think I've ever seen on film.
That was wild. It was wild. Listen, Janixa, what I loved about working with her, she really let my freak flag fly. She really allowed me to really create the character that I wanted to. It's based off of, a Twitter thread. But then I had to really, do some deep psychological work about, like, I had to study, being a pimp and, and sex trafficking and all that stuff, and go down this whole rabbit hole. And that was the wildest thing, because I'm absolutely a feminist, and I'm such a, I'm not that person, but I was curious about it. I was curious because also Janixa, the thing that I did before that I thought was very popular was If Beale Street Could Talk. And I'm like the most loving father and supporter of young women. And then Janixa, she met with me and said, "Oh my God!" I got the script, and I was like, "Whoa, who's thinking of me for this? There's nothing in my oeuvre that has shown that I can do this." And I met with Janixa, and she's like, "Oh, Colman, I just think you can do anything." And I was like, "Really? Okay." And then I saw her little weird brain because she'll get this look that's sort of like a maniac.
Yeah.
And you're like, "I think I want to be a maniac with you."
Yeah.
So we went down this rabbit hole, and we really helped create this character. And I just had a great time creating. He had such age. I had to find out what I loved about him too. I took
Well,
it from
maybe the character you play that's most unlike you, frankly.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, well,
I'm
unless
thinking-
you ask like people like my friend Amel, who says I love taking people to strip clubs, which is
Yeah,
sort of
but
true.
strip clubs, honey, that's just a nice time. You know what I mean? This guy is a fucking piece of work.
Yeah,
he's
he's a piece of work. But I took it from. My own secret for the character was like I had to take it. I like the question that people don't know if he's actually Nigerian or he's
it's so
African American. But I always like to believe that he was coming from the point of view of it was an immigrant story, and everyone else was the villain. He was like, I'm just trying to get paid and get the American dream like everybody else. And I'm using what I know to be true, which is sex trafficking women.
God, what a fucking brilliant way in.
Because I'm like, he thinks everyone else is the villain. And he's just trying to do his work
Yeah.
and be in service.
Yeah, Hannibal Lecter is like, listen, I'm just trying to eat.
And I'm just trying to eat. I don't know what everybody else's problem, which is why he's like, why are you taking so long? We have to go.
Yeah.
What are you doing? I'm trying to run a business here.
Yeah.
And and then you just do what I say.
I'm trying to help you.
Yeah, I'm trying to help you. That's a bag of money he gave her.
Yes.
He said he gave her a bag of money that he even gave her a gun. He said, I don't know what more I can give you to help you out.
But the deep cut of it's an immigration story, but he has a fake Nigerian accent.
Yes, exactly. It's got to be one or the other. I believe that I made the choice that he was actually Nigerian, but he wanted people to believe that he was just some African American dude.
Huh.
So it would drop every so often in a crazy way, and then he would have to cover it up. Like the first time I do it, I covered it. I'm like, I got. He has to get it back because he knows the secret's been out. But then he starts to use it I love that he used it in a strange way. Sort of, I feel like it's a power move too.
Yeah.
He's like, you never know who he is or what he's going to do. So and even like Janixa had me do some beautiful, weird things. Like when I'm in the bathroom, she said, could you make some noises or something while you're in the bathroom? Because the scene is happening and the camera's on them, yet she still wanted me to dominate the scene no matter what, his presence. So I'm in the bathroom peeing. And I remember I saw this. I went into the back of a theater in Austin, Texas, just to watch this film. And I was in front of these three girls, and they were watching the scene. And I'm in this. If you've seen the movie, I'm in there. You hear me going, while I'm peeing. And I heard them go, oh my God, he's so fucking gross. And I just died. I'm like, yes, he is. He's gross. Because you're like, I like the questions like, what's wrong with him? What's going on? What's happening down there? You know?
Yeah. That guy takes up space. That's how he pisses. And your girlfriend in this movie is fucking great. I mean,
baby. Yeah, she was. The beautiful thing is, Janixa did some beautiful stunt casting. She cast her off of Instagram.
Yeah.
Because she was one of those, beautiful. She's wonderful, beautiful, curvaceous models, and she was like 6'3" and like 235 pounds.
The two of you together were fucking image.
And I love that, it's a character that you don't even know her name. She just shows up in the third act out of nowhere with a gun.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, and please.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're happy to see her. You're like, baby's back. Yes. So let's see what these are. I'm trying to think. Some of these we really cover. Oh, I guess it says here you worked with Taylor Page on this project. How was the experience different from Ma Rainey's Black Bottom?
Well, the wildest thing is this. We shot Zola first. First time we ever worked together that intimately. And then we did Ma Rainey's Black Bottom together. And that was, first of all, it was just, the beautiful thing is, you stay in it long enough, these people become part of your acting company. And she's so lovely and wonderful to work with. So she really has become my baby sister in many ways. So it was just nice to go from this very art house alt film to this very prestige film directed by George C. Wolfe, and to find how we're useful in that space, which is beautiful. And with my co-stars Chadwick Boseman and Viola Davis and Glenn Turman and Michael Potts, I feel like we created something really special. And I don't know.
Well, and we'll get to George C. Wolfe a lot today. But I love what you said about this idea. Like, even the villain, I think it's just true of everybody in this life. Like, and it's so hard to remember, like, even in politics, they talk about whatever, these, like, echo chambers that we get into with our fucking algorithms and all this shit. And it's like, oh, everybody must think the same thing, right? And it's like, oh no, there's a whole other flip, and
well,
they think the exact opposite. And so people really believe what they believe, and they believe that they are right.
And
everybody else is wrong. They're trying to help.
That's getting into the headspace of someone who's a villain.
Yes.
And then how do you humanize them so you can understand who they are?
Yeah.
I do that. I have another film called The Color Purple. I'm playing Mister, who's very much.
It's a gorgeous performance, Colman. I love that movie. And Danielle Brooks, my God.
Our dear Danielle Brooks.
Oh,
but I had to come to the perspective of, like, Mr. is a broken person. He's a hurt person hurting people. So I have to get into the psychology of, like, he has dreams once, like everybody else.
Yeah.
And what happens when his dreams were deferred? He put his foot on the neck of someone else. So for me, in order to I have to find the heart and humanity of every character. I don't have to play heroes. I can play such dastardly human beings. I've got to find out what makes them tick. For me, maybe that's the question, like, because I'm always trying to figure out, like, I'm one of those people that, like, when I go to hotel rooms, I watch very different news networks.
Yeah.
News networks that spew back things I like to hear and things that I don't really like to hear. Because I want to figure them out as well. I want to figure out, well, what are they?
Exactly.
Why do they believe that? And then if my job as an artist and our jobs are to interrogate that can become more human, and I can actually learn to have a conversation with, and we can find ways to heal, I guess. I think I do that. I remember I was doing that in my makeup chair when I was on Fear the Walking Dead, and we had one young woman who did my makeup, and we weren't aligned in many ways politically.
Hey, there's a lot of story.
There was a lot of story that we weren't aligned, but
yeah.
Honestly, we were able to have because we loved each other. And I love her, and I do, and she loves me. But we were able to bridge and find ways. I would ask her a question: well, why do you believe that? Why do you think that? And not with a lot of noise, not with a lot of huff, but I know that I was able to understand her, and she was able to understand me, and hopefully we're moving the needle a bit more. I think that's what our jobs are as artists. Well, I think
that is how change works, right?
Yes,
like,
it does work that way.
It doesn't work that you yell at somebody, or I was told this about, like, PTSD, that you, a lot of people think, with PTSD is something that's like there's a smell in the room, and automatically you're like, boom, you're back. And it's sort of like, you hear the sound of a fucking a grate and a taxi, and boom, you're in Vietnam again, or whatever it is. In my case, my childhood. Then all of a sudden you're down in this kind of pit down there in the well, and a lot of people think that you can just sort of yell over and say, hey, why are you so sad? Life's going great. Come on out. But in fact, what this world needs is what you're talking about with the makeup artist, is what you're talking about, this way in of believing that even the villain has a point of view and a raison de fucking epigenetic fucking, that's how they got there. You got to go sit down, walk down there quietly, sit next to them in the well, hang out with them.
Even hold their hand once in a
just
while.
fucking hang out a while. And, like, when they're done and they're like, all right, maybe, let's walk up out of here.
Maybe I'm a little or something.
Maybe let's walk up. And you kind of walk up together, and then it's okay. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, you're this way and you got to fix it. And, like, that does not seem to actually change the world. Are we... I see. We're
throwing to a clip.
Yeah, we're throwing to a clip. But yeah, fucking Zola is incredible. And one last stray thought. We'll go over by about 3 hours today. Don't panic. And it's just like, in some ways, like, are you kind of like a Jack Nicholson to us? Because the thing about Jack Nicholson, when I think about like a 5 Easy Pieces or whatever, is that he had a sort of, like a light in his eyes, a kind of like a sparkiness and a mischief in what he would do that would make the camera just like come alive in such a wild way. And when I see you in Zola, but also just watching this Euphoria and also knowing you, it's like there's this sort of lean back cool, but there's this sense of like, I mean, this is a serious performance. We love to watch. And I don't know, it's just always, it's so sparky as opposed to, some performers are kind of a bore. If I'm being honest, sort of like, congratulations, I hope you win your award, and God bless in your life. Please don't make me watch this. But, you know what I mean? Like, Jack really has that thing where you're like, oh, it's going to be, I'm in for a ride.
I think some require that, and a sort of that spark and that fire and fuel in the eyes, and some require you to just be, to fall back a bit more. And I think, yeah, that's what I think. I feel like it all depends on what's required. Actually, I think.
Well, this is a gorgeous segue because let's see some Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Whoa! A drink here. Okay, a lot of things. First of all, Chadwick. Holy fuck! I'm sorry. I see you crying, Colman. And
I've never seen that film in a theater ever. It just dawned on me. I was like, I've never seen it in this size, and to see Chad's eyes and all that, it's just it is what it is.
I mean, that is I feel you. I not in the same way because I never met him. I don't know him.
Well, this scene in
like,
particular,
whew.
this scene in particular, this film was directed by George C. Wolfe, and he really put us together. We had an intense rehearsal period of 3 weeks, and when Chad first saw me, I knew Chad for years, but we never worked together. And he said, "Oh man, I can't wait to dance with you." And that's what we're doing, truly.
Yeah.
And that scene affects me because there was lots of layers happening in that scene. And that was a scene where, and this is actually the take, where George staged it like a boxing ring in many ways. And we had our corners, and we would retreat to it, et cetera, go back. And then it was combustible. And in particular, on that day, I'll never forget that scene for the rest of my life, because there was something else at work. I didn't know that my friend was ill, as ill as he was, because he was very sick at that time. I didn't know this. No one knew, which is like, he was a superhero. So I remember he was going through that monologue when God hates niggas, blah, 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 and he stopped. He sort of paused, and there was something happening that was, if anybody works with me, I'm like, it's that stuff that you can't, that Sam Shepard would say, John Patrick Shanley would say, to leave room for the divine to reside. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, there was something happening there, and he was almost afraid of it. The language, what was happening, it's about faith. It's about a crisis of faith. And he started to turn away, and I said, what? In character. And I started yelling at him and said, say it, say it, say it, say it. And then he turns to me with that look on his face. And the guy hates niggas, and he continues that monologue. That takes on both of us right there. And then punch him. And then afterwards we come back in, the door closes, and George calls cut. And honestly, it wasn't set up this way at all. We just immediately embraced each other and started sobbing. And we didn't know what was happening. It was silent in the room. It was absolutely silent. And we just stood there and cried. And it was silent, the whole crew. And I remember afterwards, we didn't know what was happening. And then suddenly Glenn Turman is a legend. He's been around for a long time. He said, never in my years have I ever seen anything like this. Because it was, and I look back at it now, that as an artist, whether it's Colman, whether it's Cutler, but I needed to be in service and help my friend at that moment and push whatever that was out. And he let me, because it was a safe space for it. of rage or frustration. That's all I can imagine it was now. He's not here to validate any of this, but these are the questions I was left with. Was like, what was that about that we all experienced? And it was about a crisis of faith in the room. The characters were having it. And then the actors, something was happening. And in that moment, we had to be in service to each other in that way and let that thing happen. And we'll never forget it. That's what we were like this after that. We were already very close. And then, after we wrapped, I didn't see Chad again. After we wrapped, and he sent me a lovely Christmas gift and a card, and it's a record player that I have. And I love you, and I look forward to dancing with you again. And then he was gone. But he left such a great, legacy in many ways, not only in this work, but just in what he did in the world. But, we get, yes, please. But I'll tell you this, because you didn't even ask this, but I don't know why I want to say this. I realize, because we're talking about service a lot already early on.
Yeah.
And we never know. I always ask whether it's the spiritual folks that would say, let God use you, be in service. And in that moment is those moments you're like, I hope I'm used in this moment. This is what I do as an actor. You know what I mean? And
that's the addictive part people don't talk about. It's like when you have a moment where you're just sort of, you actually disappear. Like I've been doing this for 40 years. I think maybe 3 times it's happened. And it's like 100 fucking movies. 99 of them are unwatchable. But when it happens, you're like, oh, that's acting. You disappear, and that's what it's.
And something else is at play.
Something else enters your fucking spirit. Yeah. And you and Chadwick, it's pretty major. It really is the most uncynical version of a life in the arts and why it's a fucking thing and why it matters. You personally in that scene, what's so crazy is physiognomy, that your eyeballs are actually not the same eyeballs as the man we just saw in Zola. They are not the same eyeballs as the man we saw in the diner. And they're not my friend Colman's eyeballs. And it's also your physical body. You physically have taken, you're taking up space. It's you got a hot bod. And I've seen it in, he wears sort of like a European bathing suit. And when we go to the beach, so you should know that. And anyway, but you are fucking using that body to either be a lean, mean fucking power Taylor, we're going up and I'm a big guy, or you're using it to be hey man, I'm just hanging back and I snacks in life and fucking music. Or you're using it to be I'm an addict, so I was probably a wiry guy at some point when I was strung out, but now I've sort of I'm eating grilled cheese sandwiches and doing a life of service. It's fucking crazy. And then Rustin, it's really crazy.
But you know what, I think that's the joy of it too. I've always had to find the body, the voice, the astrological sign, the choices of what I eat, how they have sex, all that stuff that you will never, ever know. I like to make decisions about and download because you'll know it in some way. You'll feel it. So for me, it's more about the essence and creating this whole tapestry of a human being where I can recede. That's been also sort of my superpower for many years. For many years, people think I just got here last week.
Yeah.
Right now, people are like, oh my God, Colman, I've never seen him in any work. Yeah. You're like, actually, you might have. And then they go back and further back. And they're like, he's been working for 33 years?
I know, it's crazy.
And he's been right there?
This prodigy is fucking hitting?
No, because I know it's oh no, I changed my body. I gain weight, I lose weight, I look older, I look younger. I smile, I don't smile. I pitch my voice in different ways. And that's been a great superpower for a while. You know what I mean? Which is why people are like, wow, it's taking you a while. I'm like, yeah, people couldn't put a pin on me. Yeah. Because I was constantly I was wily in that way. Yeah. But I was also, that's been great because I've always been liberated I haven't had to live up to something I've done before.
Could you even imagine if you're like, oh, that's a fucking toll?
Yeah, like
you're
if you,
like,
you know how people
be
get locked into
guy,
that
be
thing. You're that
guy
thing. We like
again.
that thing.
Yeah.
And they don't want you to be anything else but that thing.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy, which is
Yeah.
awesome. People always like, here, play this water bottle.
Yeah, yeah.
That's interesting.
If I gotta play that water bottle one more fucking time, can you tell me a bit about and please, my friend, I'm sorry, what's your name? I'm sorry. Kate. Hi, Kate.
Kate, we're gonna go.
Are you about ready for that? Because I just have one more question that might be a nice segue, and I love a segue. But I don't know what an actual like a segue in the futurism sense is. I know it exists, but I don't know about it. I think it's a moving vehicle of some sort. I'm not going to get on it. George C. Wolfe, because we're going to move over to our big boy here, Rustin. And can you tell me? Yes, please. Go ahead. Thanks. Can you please tell me? About the first time you met George. If anybody who doesn't know, speaking as a New Yorker, George C. Wolfe is, as big a guy as we've got in the New York theater scene. So he's on your radar as a kid, because the New York Times, the paper back when we had a paper, and so he's a fucking major.
When I first
character.
met George,
Yeah.
I met George when many times I auditioned for him like 5 times. He'll refute that. He thinks, no, you never auditioned. I'm like, yes, I did. And I never got cast, which I was fine with. And life goes on, and then I get an offer, like a direct offer, to be a part of Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. And I thought, it can't be from the George C. Wolfe, because he doesn't like my work. But it was. I think he's very specific about sort of the bands that he creates, and the way he's creating with music, and he lets these artists come to him. So that was my first time working with him, was Ma Rainey Black Bottom. And then the film Rustin had been swarming around for a while. It was in the hands of a couple other artists before. Then, schedules and all move around. And I had meetings with the producer.
Was it always the Obamas?
No, eventually it was the Obamas. But this is when it was just getting traction as a script.
Yeah.
And an idea. And I had, for years, people had said to me, when they do a biopic about Bayard Rustin, it should be you. This happened for years. And I knew about Bayard Rustin, and I know many people didn't. I knew about him since I was 19 years old, and I learned about him in an African-American student union group. And I was fascinated with him because I felt like, wow, he was really an outlier and did some incredible things. But I also understood he was marginalized in the history books because he was openly gay. So I think that in some way he made an impression on me, because it was even helping me the way I navigated the way I was in the world, to actually lead with my intelligence and heart and all that stuff, and trust that I will find the spaces, and I will, find the spaces where I'm useful. So we finally, it moved into George's hands, this script and project, when the Obamas greenlit it. Barack and Michelle, my dear friends,
them.
my dear friends. So they once they greenlit it, George Wolfe, he did some thinking, and I got a phone call when I was away on a little vacation from Bruce Cohen, our producer, who said, on behalf of President Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, Higher Ground, and George C. Wolfe, we would be honored if you would be our Bayard Rustin. And I will tell you, for any artist out there, if you ever get the opportunity to play your hero, what you want to do. You wanted to make it your mission and your life's work, that if you didn't do anything else again, it was all in this film. And that's the reality. I wanted to give everything I could, knowing that I had this monumental task for this man of size, of charisma and heart and passion and fire and fuel and potency, and who gave so much and dedicated his life to human and civil rights. And I get to tell it? Oh, I want to give you everything. And then I also want to take on the responsibility to lead the film in a way that may have not have been done before, to lead it like Bayard would, to be filled with love and grace and generosity. So it was like, that was the task, and I feel very honored and blessed. And boy, I've been getting so much love in rooms because of it. And I can't tell you that love has been keeping me buoyant every single day. So I'm not tired.
I remember you. Go ahead, please. We love applause. You know, because we're professionals from showbiz, so we live for it. We need your love. But I remember you talking about that. Well, maybe you remember this too. But it was, the experience of also leading as a leader on that set of why it mattered. And I mean, my God, I don't know what clip we're about to watch, but it's like that whole fucking, moment that tracks throughout the whole film of, kind of like, should we not tell people about Rustin? Should we like sort of bury him in the background and fucking you standing up for yourself and like, oh God, it's so gorgeous. I mean, let's watch a clip and see what happens. And then we'll talk about other thoughts. There are many. Woohoo! Colman Domingo. They either believe in freedom and justice for all or they do not.
What a question to pose to people, right?
I mean, it's big. And it's like in that moment, with all of it that's happening in the world in that moment, that this guy is like fucking standing up and saying that is heavy stuff. And you are an entirely different person. I mean, just on an acting level, like, what the fuck? That is not you. That is like the spirit of this man has entered and said like, hey, thanks for finding the right guy, because I do have a story to tell, and I appreciate that you found the right guy.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, on behalf of Rustin's Ghost, you're welcome. I don't think we knew that was coming. I'm not sure that's legal to say.
His ghost entered you for a moment?
Yes, and who knew it was coming? And I'm sure it's problematic. Can't wait. Then she was like on the Ghost of Rustin, and the Obamas called. It was on Twitter. Luckily, she was also a journeyman, so we kind of didn't notice. We knew she was nuts. All right, so, I mean, some of these we've sort of talked about. Okay, maybe not this. All right, so I'll just run through some of these so you've heard them. Okay, it was not your first film with George C. Wolfe, we know. What did it mean to be cast? I think it meant a lot, I'm guessing. Can you talk about the rehearsal process and what that looked like for you and the cast?
Absolutely,
Thank
Natasha
you, sir.
Lyonne.
Thank you.
First of all, can we give it up to Natasha Lyonne, please? Thank you.
Hey, I'm just here for free fucking partying with my friend Colman.
Listen, George Wolfe is, like I said, he's from the theater, and he requires a rigorous rehearsal. So I had 2.5 weeks of rehearsal beforehand of just table work, just with the cast, sitting around getting this work done. And then before then, of course, I had like the bulk of the dialogue, and I'm on like pretty much every page of the script. So I needed to go in my own process already of just making sure I had speeches.
Do you work with anyone? Do you ever work with like an acting coach or a voice dialect?
I think that stuff is private. Well, the dialect work, I did work. Did I work with a dialect coach on this?
Roll, did he?
I did not.
You're shrugging?
No. You know why I didn't? I didn't because in all of my recordings and video by Rustin, his dialect kept changing. And I was so confused by it. So therefore, I asked Rochelle Horowitz, who's actually featured in the film, what was that dialect? Because at times he would sound like Katharine Hepburn. And there are times he sound like, I don't know, Betty Davis. And then there are times he sound like the Queen of England. So I was like, what is this act? And then times it went away. Now he's from Westchester, Pennsylvania. And he has a thin, reedier voice than I. It was pitched higher than it's actually that I use it in the film. His voice was a bit more up here, and he would speak like this. I'm Bayard Rustin. It was very high, And that's a lot to maintain. I didn't want it to feel like, that could feel like a caricature.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to find this middle ground, right? So find that place where it sits. But his accent, he made up. He made up his accent. And it's the truth. He was
I
speaking
respect that, though.
It's much respect to
Yeah.
it. He was already such an outlier. He was a Quaker. He sang Elizabethan love songs. He played the lute. He did all this stuff and gave himself an accent. I thought that's one dope motherfucker.
Yeah. For real.
Because really,
I'm planning on doing that this year, by the way.
Do it this year. I'm like,
and I'm going to
you
get
think
younger.
of that, you're like someone
Yeah.
who's like already not really sort of invited into rooms and spaces. And he's like, I'm going to demand that and add some. Add belt and jacket, So,
Yeah.
so I think that was part of his power, of owning his power, of being so unique. So in my research and everything, finding his voice, finding his body, the way he sat, the way he moved his body, and for me, I always do this work as well. I'm like, yeah, somebody in 1963, they weren't working out like the way I work out. They weren't intermittent fasting. So I changed my diet. I changed my diet. I changed, if he's got a little bit more heft in this face and stuff like that, yes, it's because I think I wanted to eat the way he ate and move like he did. So, and anyway, so you as a person can sort of recede, and the character can take his rightful place.
Yeah.
So I did all that work beforehand, but I had 5 months of prep. So I worked all the time on that. And then once I was in the room, we have rehearsals, and then we also have rehearsals before every single scene. And I mean, for our filmmakers here, these were private rehearsals, and not private with a DP and a first AD and script supervisor in there. These were private. It was just director and actors. So therefore, you have people like Audra McDonald, Jeffrey Wright coming in and being able to play. It isn't about the end result. It's like, we're able to actually discover and find a truth that we found right here, not some manufactured truth. We're able to be vulnerable and find something brand new. So that's why I think the scenes are popping and electric with each other, because we were finding them. I could play any scene 100 different ways because George liberated me to do so.
I don't think people know that they're like, they always think it's like about something or whatever. And it's like, no, you can do a scene. It's like a scene about a fucking vape. You can do a movie about the fucking whatever. And it's all inside of the details and like the sort of the air in the room.
You get the details. You get the research. You get all that stuff, and then it's about leaving room for the divine to reside.
And then you can say or do anything.
Yeah.
Did you spend time with his widow?
With a Walter Nagel, I waited.
Yeah.
Walter Nagel. First of all, I just got a sidebar. I had the beautiful gift to go to Bayard Rustin's apartment, which is still fully furnished.
Where is it?
It's in Penn Station South in New York, in Chelsea. And his partner Walter Nagel, still lives there. There's still all this religious sculpture and books and everything that Bayard had. I sat in Bayard's chair.
Wow.
It's all there. It's all preserved in such a gorgeous way. And when you go there, it's really interesting. So I wanted to wait until I built this character, because I was very clear, I'm not doing a documentary. I'm building a character, and I respect and love. And I wanted to please them, yes. But I had a job to do as taking part of a film. So I waited until I didn't talk to either one of them, really. I talked to Rochelle sooner than Walter, but I didn't talk to Walter until actually 2 days before we wrapped.
The clip is very powerful. As can you say it? You said it, because I was going to say Bayard, but that's not what you said. Bayard. Thank you. As Bayard's words are still very relevant today, can you talk more about why was now the right time for a film about Bayard Rustin?
Well, I think it's always been a time for a film about Bayard Rustin. And well, I'll tell you this: it was going to come out last year, but because of COVID stops and starts, the film got pushed. And I think everything's divine, because it is, because it did come out on the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington.
Holy shit!
And so it was an opportunity now to sort of like not rewrite history, but like open up the history books and move the camera a little left and look at his story and look at his legacy and what he did and what he gave and how he inspired Dr. King in many ways. And so I feel like the time is, especially now when legislation is trying to send us right back to 1963. when books are being banned, and history
it's
is
crazy.
and history
Yeah.
is like up in question. And then, so I think the most beautiful thing, Natasha, is when we go to art, right? There's a wonderful artist in San Francisco named Rhodessa Jones who said once, and it affected me so much, she says, politics doesn't work. Religion is too eclectic. But art just might be the parachute that saves us all. When we can go to art in a safe place like film to interrogate, to question, to wrestle in a dark space together in a community, things can actually change. We can actually hopefully inspire someone out there, some 19 or 20-year-old, to say, you can take part, you have agency, you can actually do something. Why? Because you're looking on that screen and you're seeing that the March on Washington was organized by 19 and 20-year-olds. They were you. They didn't know that they could do it or not, but they were ambitious and they were open and they were willing to take part in their democracy and righting the wrongs of this world. So I think that's why the film is important, especially right now, at least for me. It's really important right now. I want every young person to see it. When people say, oh, I haven't seen Rustin yet, well, why not? It's on Netflix. It's like 100 minutes. Watch it. Because also I think sometimes people are afraid of like, oh, I don't want to feel bad. Oh, it's about civil rights. I don't want to feel bad. But for anyone who's watched this film, I'm like, it's a buoyant, sexy, interesting, fun film about organizing. Yeah. It's going to get you hot.
And it is. It's a hot picture. The kid, I really cried in that last fucking moment when he's just like, after all that organizing with those kids, and that is the why now of it, and that's one of my fucking picks up.
But that's one of my favorite moments. That's actually one of my favorite moments in the entire script.
Yeah,
because he doubled down on a dedication of service.
Yeah,
he may not get the shine. He may not get to go to the White House. He may get pushed or erased in the history books. But that's everlasting, getting up and doing the work. And I think this is what any journeyman would know. Anyone who could have gotten the shine in their careers or their workplace in any way, shape, or form and didn't get it. But to rededicate yourself to the work, that's powerful. That's where you have true power. And then whatever else comes, and if it comes, like right now, which is a beautiful thing to me, I feel very blessed that I feel like my work's being amplified at the same time as by Rustin. If that isn't being in dedication to service, I don't know what is. I feel so blessed and honored that I get to raise up an American hero. And anytime someone sees me, they see him. That is the goal, I think, of being a journeyman, of doing the work and being dedicated to the work. That's why I do what I do.
Colman, you are a beautiful human being and an extraordinary artiste to the max in every fiber of your being. I'm so grateful that I get to walk in this life with you. It's really a lucky break for me. And I want to thank everybody that is here today, that we got to have a real conversation, not one of these 2-minute jibber-jabber talks. I hate those. And I mean, this is a really beautiful thing that we got to spend some time together. I'm so grateful for the work and your existence in the arts, honey. And I love you very, very much. And I love this performance. And I'm so glad that it's being appropriately recognized. So all the way to the top, please. Thank
you.
Guys, thank you for sticking it out. And, I mean, that about takes us. I guess you and I are about to go into the night, sir.
Yeah, we gotta, we gotta go do nighttime things.
Yeah.
But I want to say thank you so much for coming. This is very meaningful to me to share this, and I hope that, if anything, whatever, some of my path and my journey inspires you. And
it does.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Woo!
Give yourselves a round of applause.